to write the letter to the Galatians, there was a heaviness upon his heart. The apostle knew that a life and death struggle was taking place for the souls of men and women who he himself had preached to, and who he loved with a great love, and he didn't want to see them cast away. He didn't want to see what they had entered into become tossed aside. The Apostle Paul understood that not only for them, but for others who would follow in their path, there was a decision that was being made, either to continue to walk in the truth and in the simplicity of the gospel of Jesus Christ, or to be diverted to another gospel. And at the essence of what was taking place here was, who were we endeavoring to please? Was it men, or was it God himself? In Galatians chapter 1 and verse 10, we read as follows. Paul says, "For am I now seeking the favor of men or of God? Or am I striving to please men? If I were still trying to please men, I would not be a bondservant of Christ. For I would have you know, brethren, that the gospel which was preached by me is not according to man, for I neither received it from man, nor was I taught it, but I received it through a revelation of Jesus Christ." The Apostle Paul, he strikes the nail straight on the head, and he says, the gospel of Jesus Christ came to my heart. It came and brought salvation, not through the agency of man, but God's Spirit himself was working in me. Let me ask you this question. Who would you please in this world, in this universe, in all the breath that you take? Who would you please? Or let me put it another way. Whose approval do you seek? Oh, there are so many in this world that are seeking the approval of people. Whether it is one person, or whether it is 5, or whether it is a group of 1,000 or 10,000, or whether it is a politician who many thousands of people he is seeking to curry favor with and seeking to draw the votes that would place him or her into a particular office. Whose approval do you seek? Is it diverting you from the simplicity of the gospel of Jesus Christ? The Apostle Paul in Romans, in Philippians, and at the outset of Titus also, he describes himself as a bondservant of Jesus Christ. A bondservant. And here also in Galatians, though he does not start off the very first verse as Paul, a bondservant of Jesus Christ, but here he comes in verse 10 and says, I am a bondservant. And if I was trying to please men, I would no longer be a bondservant. But Paul understood that the greatest desire of his heart was to please God, to be acceptable before him, and to do that by faith, by continuing to trust in the simplicity of the gospel message, that good news that had come to his heart. Previously, the Apostle Paul, he had sought to win the favor of this world. He had sought to win the approval of people, and he had been utterly zealous for it. We read in verse 14 of Galatians chapter 1 that he was advancing in Judaism beyond many of his contemporaries, many of his countrymen, and he says, being more extremely zealous for my ancestral traditions. He was looking for the approval. He was looking for high marks from his instructors and from his